With current geopolitical shifts and economic pressures, it's a critical time for Canada and our future prosperity. Join Canada Powered by Women for an essential nonpartisan dialogue about what's needed for a thriving economy, growing Canada's energy independence, and caring for the environment. Events take place in Toronto, April 29th, Vancouver, May 6th, and Calgary, May 9th. Add your voice and help shape Canada's future. Visit canadapoweredbywomen.ca for details and tickets.
Hey, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Amanda.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Kathleen.
And this is the federal election edition of Beyond a Ballot, powered by DoorDash.
Hello, it is Friday, April 18th, and the morning after the main event, the English language debate. 2 hours, 4 leaders, a political slugfest over issues like Trudeau, Trump, crime, and the economy. Now, with polls showing that Liberal leader Mark Carney is still leading, and the other 3 leaders really spent a lot of time taking aim at him. So, if I may, Amanda Alvaro, did he stay above the fray, or did the crossfire leave a mark? And I say, if I may, for a reason too.
Yeah, I totally felt like he stayed above the fray. It is not easy being the front runner. It is not easy receiving attacks on all sides, and it was relentless last night. Virtually every attack was aimed at him, save for a few that sing aimed at Polyev. But for the most part, it was aimed at Carney, and he took it, I think, very well. And the objective going into this debate was really come out unscathed. Don't make a major gaffe. Don't make a major mistake. I think he held court on that. I think that he did what he needed to do. He was able to deflect. He was able to get his message out. Were there a lot of knockout punches on his behalf? No, I don't think there were, but I don't think that's what he intended to do. He was there to come out without taking too many punches, and I think he did that well.
Okay, I just want to mention the "if I may" is something he uses all the time. I actually do think it's kind of charming in a way. He goes, "if I may," and then let me give you point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and how many points. That's what I was referring to there. Rachel Siegel, I want to come to you because Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre used the debate, I would say, to recalibrate. Less opposition critic, more PM in waiting, and his closing pitch, and I don't know if you want to get to this yet. Do you want to talk about the closing pitch, or you just want to do a roundabout? Because
let's do a roundabout.
Let's do a roundabout because the closing pitch was something that I really found intriguing. So do a roundabout. We'll come back to that. It's something you want to listen to.
Yeah. So like we talked about yesterday, I think Pierre went in there with the goal of putting to Canadians what his plan is and showing them that he is going to be the one with the long-term program for Canada, including resource projects to help the economy, to build the economy. I think ultimately he did that. And I think both him and Carney came in with a goal, and both of them left with that goal. The one discrepancy in my mind was that he really had to get Mark Carney a bit rattled. There was one point where he talked about Mark Carney being Trudeau's economic advisor. Carney started to get a little riled up, but then calmed himself down. And so I think that for me, that was the point in the debate that really stood out. It was like, this is what Pierre came to do, to stay calm himself, to put forward that plan and get Carney a little riled up and tie him to Justin Trudeau. So when we look at those goals, I think that was the moment where all of that happened. But ultimately, Carney didn't really take the bait on that one. I agree with Amanda. He stayed calm. He stayed boring. He stayed numeric with all of his answers. And I think both of them came out with the goal they had in mind. I will say, Jagmeet Singh, holy moly. Am I allowed to dive into him?
Yeah, just a smidge though. Don't take Kathleen's yet.
Let's hear Kathleen, and then I'll come back on that one.
And then we can all jump in. Let's get everybody's first round. So, as I bet you Rachel was about to say, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, he came out swinging. He was chippy. He was sharp, and clearly fighting to break through the camera lens with voters. Did it land, Kathleen Monk?
Yeah, I think it did. I think, Jagmeet Singh last night did what he needed to do. he made the case. He prosecuted both Mr. Polyev on his record of failing to build housing, affordable housing for Canadians, of possibly leading to cuts to healthcare and dental care and childcare. And then he also took the case to Carney, right? And he pointed out his links to Brookfield. And he said, listen, you have made choices through your past associations with Brookfield to buy up affordable buildings in urban centers throughout Canada and raise rents on people like single moms, right? So he prosecuted that case against Carney. He prosecuted the case against Mr. Polyev. And he actually, in a really strong and passionate way, made the case for why Canadians should have New Democrats in Parliament. Jagmeet was definitely the most energetic on screen last night.
That's
and definitely
one way to describe it.
and most telegenic too, in the sense that he was actually speaking to the camera, directly talking to voters. He made his appeal directly to them. Of note, Pierre Poilievre also looked to camera, but was less kind of appealing or less kind of like direct to voters. And actually, Carney only spoke to Pakin. Like, it was an interesting kind of study in body language and approach and how you actually want to address the camera or not. But listen, I think, New Democrats are proud of Jagmeet Singh's performance, both in the French and in the English debate. I hear you, Hannah. I sense that you feel like, in the same way that the birds here in spring are interrupting me and they're chirping in the background, Mr. Singh also was chirping last night.
Yeah.
But he had to do that, and that's his job. And he got in there, he landed those digs, he was elbows up, he made those haymakers when he had to. And I think that that's what New Democrats wanted to see in him. They wanted to see the fight.
Let's just go around on performance, because Kathleen was talking about something there too. And Amanda, I'll come to you first, because this was something that Mr. Carney actually did in the Liberal leadership debate too. He spoke directly to me throughout the whole debate, and I felt like he kind of missed that opportunity to speak directly into the camera so that Canadians feel he's addressing them.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that obviously this was his first time in a major federal
Yeah,
debate.
fair.
And I think at times you could see a bit of the apprehension. Like, I think he was probably told, make sure that you don't really get into it, try not to interrupt. He didn't have the license that Singh had to do some of that. And honestly, I found myself like cheering for Singh because I'm like, you tell him, because I think there's part of us that wants that fight back, that wants to see, the leaders on that debate stage call each other out. But that was not the job for Carney, and it would have been a bad look for him.
And he didn't look at Mr. Polyev often either.
No, and I think part of that is probably intentional, and some of it could be nerves. The intention could be around not giving him that airtime. Polyev used a lot of his time in repetition. That is a tactic, and he uses it frequently. He's used it for 11 years in the House of Commons, where he repeats the same kind of sloganized language over and over and over again, hoping that it will stick. So he did a lot of that. I don't love that. I don't love it, not because I'm not a conservative. I don't love it because I think that it lacks authenticity. I think people see through that kind of language when you're delivering a slogan or a prepped kind of scripted line over and over again. I think it defeats the opportunity to really authentically connect with people. So I really think that he missed the boat on that. And where he missed the boat on that, Jagmeet Singh attracted or appealed, I think, to people who are watching because he came across as authentic. He may have been chirpy, but I think that there are a lot of people who are on the other end of the the TVs watching, thinking like some of them deserved a little chirp. So it was okay that he went there.
Rachel, I want to talk authenticity because, okay, for the first time I saw, and this was just publicly, a part of Mr. Polyev that we haven't seen through this campaign and we don't often see on camera. And that was in his closing moment. Do you want to talk about that? It was really fascinating. And he was generous to the other men on stage as well.
So, full disclosure, I've known Pierre for about 15 years. I knew him when he was a young MP. I was a young staffer. We were about the same age, so we used to spend time together. For me, when I think about Pierre Poilievre, that's who I think about. I think about that sincerity. This is a guy that has deep deep love for this country, a deep, deep vision for this country based on his own experience, growing up in Calgary, to a family that adopted him, had economic issues growing up. Like, he didn't come from a wealthy family. And so those values have always been who Pierre Poilievre is, in my mind. And I think that there was a couple of points over the last couple of days where I saw hints of that person that I know. Publicly, exactly. Yeah. I mean, all of these men in this contest, have personal personas. Everybody knows them one way, and they have public personas, because not only are they carrying themselves, they're carrying an entire team and a message to Canadians that they want them to vote on at the ballot box. And so I think that Pierre, in his closing statement, when he got like a bit choked up last night, was more about his sincere desire to really put forward his vision for Canada, and the amount of outreach that he's done over the last few years in terms of trying to talk to Canadians about that message, something which just 2 months ago was so resonating with the public. And so I think that was a poignant moment for Pierre Poilievre in this race, and really a clear question that he put to Canadians in terms of what they'll vote on at the ballot box. I want to just dive into Amanda's talk about repeating messaging. People do it because it works. And so what we want is for people to really know what Pierre Poilievre stands for. And when you go to the ballot box, it's not going to be axe the tax, but it's, what did he say last night? Axe the something else tax, GST on homes or something. Yeah. But
you don't remember.
Okay.
Oh no.
Well, axe the tax. But we know that he stands for build the homes, axe the tax. Like, those are the key core policies in the Conservative platform. And when you think about the other campaigns, I mean, what is Jagmeet Singh running on at all? The fact that he—
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, maybe we'll come to that, Kathleen.
And with Mark Carney, same thing. Like, he's basically just trying to stay afloat for the last few days of the campaign. The Conservatives, the reason they continue to repeat those policy lines is because they want Canadians to know exactly what it is when they go to the ballot box that they're voting on.
Hannah, just one, because I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen. I know is going to just sail with this, but the one note that I will make, though, is that it wasn't necessarily that he was repeating the slogan of his own policy. It was the repetition around what he perceives the Liberals did not do over 10 years.
It stuck with me.
He repeated that line. Mm-hmm. We could have played like debate bingo on that line. And
we did play last night.
That would have been the line to win with, though. So it wasn't about what he will do. It's what the Liberals didn't do. And that's a big difference.
That's a good point. Oh, Kathleen has her hand up. Kath, I'm not even going to ask you a question. I'll go.
That's the segue, is that unfortunately, while I believe in message discipline and counsel all of my clients to have that kind of discipline and focus, the problem is that Pierre Poilievre last night on the stage was focused on the past, right? So he kept on trying to lasso Mark Carney into the past, the 10 years, and draw him back into the Trudeau decade. But the most devastating line, or the most effective line, I would say, that Mr. Carney delivered last night was like, Justin Trudeau's not here. The carbon tax is not here. Like, let's move on. Or whatever. I'm not summarizing it perfectly, but that was the moment. And it turned on that. And the problem is, when you're focused on the past, you're not talking about either your record or the future. And what I would say is that Carney tried to paint a picture of the future. I think some of his policies are still very unclear. I think people are just going to likely vote for him because they want to hire the smart guy in the room to take care of this massive problem that we have with the United States right now. They want kind of like the adult in the room idea. But Jagmeet Singh, was focused on his record. So he was litigating, saying, hey, with 25 New Democrat MPs, we got the first expansion to our healthcare system in decades, right? Pharmacare. We got dental care. We pushed for things like paid sick days. What else could we get you? Like, in terms of negotiators, he was trying to make the case last night on the stage that, like, hey, I'm actually the best negotiator up here with 25 measly MPs. I managed to negotiate all of this expansion in our healthcare system for Canadians. Bring us back, and we'll do something similar. I'll just make a couple other points, Hannah, that if we're going to give report cards for last night's debate, I think Carney, I think Amanda's right. Like Carney probably gets an A, maybe an A minus, but somewhere in that realm.
Not an A plus though.
No, not an A plus. No. So A minus, maybe, because I think like he did everything that he needed to do. He avoided, getting drawn into the fight. He didn't take the bait, as Amanda said, and he didn't show his kind of more snide sometimes, the hubris that kind of idea that he comes with. I think Jagmeet also gets an A because he did what he had to do in the limited window he had. He was snarky for sure. He gets maybe some marks down on terms of like on delivery, but I think like he definitely executed. I think Yves-François Blanchet for sure, big F. But that's just my personal thought. It really made me think last night without the Greens on the stage, like why are the block there?
He
you know
even
what I mean? Like,
said, "I'm not running for prime minister." He said
we know
it
that
out
for
loud.
sure. Yeah,
but he said it out loud too.
And then in terms of Pierre, I think he for sure gets a B. Like I think he
I'm going to up
get
that
grade.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm going to go to a B plus.
Okay, so okay. Well, you make your case.
Oh, I get to make my case too because
I was
going
to say, I don't think he drew any blood, right? Like he didn't
draw
actually
any
get
blood.
to prosecute anything on Carney. Like you didn't leave. And the one thing I just like in terms of the idea about, and I know actually, so I'm better than Rachel in some ways because I actually know it's, axe the tax. Fix the budget, build the houses, stop the crime. That's his for.
No, but what did he say last night? It was
no, but that's his normal slogan. But the thing is, like, we've kind of moved on from that slogan. You know what I mean? Yeah. Canadians want something else.
They've moved on from that
versus future. Yeah.
I'm gonna help Rachel's argument here a little bit before I go to Rachel. I do believe that, but I also think, and I think if Canadians and voters had seen this person on the stage last night and probably the night before, the more restrained, the less sloganism. And I know he still had some in there. Amanda's giving me big eyes for that one. And the emotional part of actually connecting with voters and giving them the cred and giving them the support, and also saying to the other men on the stage, for all these people who have supported them throughout the campaign, he was more generous than I've seen him in the past. And I think that's something maybe Canadians were looking for with Mr. Poilievre too. Rachel, sorry, I'm jumping in with my analysis as well.
I also just feel like he was the only leader really putting out a plan for Canada. I mean, Carney was trying to dodge every single answer and just skate by. Jagmeet Singh talked about pharmacare, which really was passed under the Liberals through their coalition. Blanchet, to his credit, he laid everything on the table. I mean, his English is almost as bad as Mark Carney's French, but he made some points. He made some points about he said, he's not running to lead Canada, as we've said. Really, I thought for Blanchet, it was really interesting the talk about the 13 economies and needing to really support the Quebec economy. I thought that was major points for him in terms of picking up support in Quebec. But ultimately with Pierre, like I have my blue colored glasses on here, but sincerely, I felt like he was the only one really putting forward those strong policies, differentiating himself from Mark Carney, from Jagmeet Singh, and really trying to sell to Canadians that he is a prime minister in waiting, while, again, Carney ducked every single hit, just tried to get through it. At one point, he was running out the clock, counting very slowly on the answer. Jagmeet Singh, fiery, yes, but it got to a point where it was like annoying. Everybody that I was watching with was like, shh, come on, let people talk. So maybe some overkill there. And then Blanchet, who unfortunately got very little time to speak in the English debate, but made some pretty hard.
I think his time actually was, that's not
was
true.
it even?
Yeah, like it
Oh,
was. In fact, I think
at one
when
point.
last I looked at the production clock, actually Jagmeet was still again the least amount of
The
time, similar to
least?
the night before. Actually, just something for our listeners to note is, like, there will be millions, according to the Debates Commission, millions tuned in 19, millions again in 2021, like we talked about yesterday. But what's interesting is only a quarter of them actually watched the full debate, the full 2 hours. So
I
Hannah
think
made the
30
point.
minutes.
Yeah, so Hannah made the point earlier that the impact of the last 5 minutes, for instance, of Pierre Poilievre's statement. But the thing is, the question is, how many people will actually see that?
Valid.
And so they'll basically, the parties now all have to work to be able to get those clips out, to put them on social, to amplify them where they can, maybe even put money behind them to push them into. Because as we know, we're going to, like, the debates now have been had. Those were the two big events. We go into Easter weekend, right? And people are going to
Polls
start,
are open.
thinking about it. Yeah, advanced polling begins today. So, and they're thinking about their decision. They're talking with their family and their loved ones. And, they may vote. They say there's up to 50% of Canadians may vote already by the end of this weekend. We'll have to see what those numbers actually look like. And then
Crazy.
we're in the final stretch. So we'll have a really good sense of where this is going, I think, by next Wednesday.
Okay, we are going to do, for the last time in this election campaign, the debate ditty. Oh, yeah. I've got a ditty too I want to add in today. Who wants to go first? Amanda, you sort of, your connection disconnected. Let's go to you for your ditty.
Okay, my debate ditty is gonna have to be what it was yesterday because Kathleen
What?
and I were there. We were at the debate. We watched as the media room erupted in an explosion that nobody was anticipating, and that's
Yuck.
because of all these illegitimate right wing, quote unquote, media organizations who caused an absolute scene, ended up being escorted out, tried to get themselves on live network TV, ended up making such a scene that they had to cancel all of the post debate
It's a
scrums
shame.
and using all of that content to fundraise. It was revealed last night that the debate commission did not know that Rebel Media was actually registered as a third party advertiser. They have been running anti-Carney ads. This is not a news source. And this is fair warning to all our listeners who get fed this BS in their feeds by these organizations that are totally illegitimate and have absolutely no business being at the debates in any credentialed way.
Rachel Siegel, debate ditty. Debate
My
ditty.
debate ditty goes to the poor Liberal staffer who had to quickly go on liberal.ca and change Mark Carney's title from economic advisor last night because as Pierre Poilievre pointed out on the debate stage, he was still listed as being his economic advisor, and so I'm sure, having been a staffer for many years, everyone was looking around the room and said, "Somebody take that off," and some poor staffer had to go and make that change in the middle of the debate. So props to that staffer.
Kathleen Monk, your ditty.
Okay, so I want to actually give my ditty to second Amanda's ditty because it was a tough night. Amanda and I were both in Montreal for the debates at the broadcast site last night, and it was, a scene. But I have nothing to add to all of the things she already stated. I also want to cede some of my ditty time back to Rachel and say, Rachel, tell us about your event in Vancouver, the debate watching party. That should be your ditty. How was the room and everybody there?
Gosh, for context for our listeners, Beyond a Ballot hosted a debate watching party last night in Vancouver, hoping to do more events like that across the country. But we had a sold out, overflowed crowd last night. We had themed drinks for the parties.
Are you putting pictures up?
We are, of course. I'm trying to. The Liberal Cosmo and the Green Party Sour were the two big drinks
hits
last night. I don't know if that reflects the voting intentions of our audience, but those drinks were great. We did bingo. What else did we do? We had just such a fun room. And I will say, I don't know about you guys, I've never watched a debate in a theater with other people. It was amazing to listen to the crowd laugh at things that people were saying, boo at the screen. And it was just all very cordial, very fun. And Beyond a Ballot will definitely be doing more of these things.
That's what politics should be like. Can I have two debate ditties today?
Please.
Okay, just because I loved at the very end, if you continued to watch after the debate, and I know a lot of people may have tuned out, but what I loved is when Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre walked up to each other, shook each other's hand. You could see them interacting very kindly to each other. And I even heard, because the mic was still up on Mr. Poilievre, he said something like, "That was fun. They spoke for a while. And then they were laughing and smiling, and they gave each other the thumbs up at the end."
Oh,
Oh, look, I got thumbs up on this too. That is the type of interaction I really enjoy. You can disagree with things, but you don't have to be angry at each other. The other debate ditty I want to give is to one of our listeners. You mentioned this, Rachel, Mr. Pakin.
Yeah.
I think he had I sent him a note last night. That was a master class in holding a debate. So good for him too. And I just wanted to shout out to him. Anybody else before we go? I'm sorry I had to put mine in, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Those are good ones.
I thought so too. That's it for today. We are going to be back on Monday as the final week of this campaign kicks off. Yeah, raise the roof on that one. And we will see if these debates made any changes in the polls. Our gang will be here. I hope you will be too.
Thank you for listening. New episodes come out daily, and you can find Beyond a Ballot on Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. A huge thank you to our title sponsor, DoorDash, and sponsors Equal Voice, Page, and Canada Powered by Women for making this election special possible. Speak to you tomorrow.